Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year. As you see by the title of this video, I'm posting about cleaning my opossum skull. Yeah, I collect skulls, I collect bones, I collect insects that are preserved, all kinds of things. I'm really into them, not for any sort of purposes that are like to use them in rituals or for any sort of religious purposes or anything like that, just in case anybody's wondering. It's literally just to collect them, to put on my wall and admire them. I have a number of bones, mostly skulls, but also I have like a whole rabbit skeleton. Some of the ones I have found myself, and some of them I have found through like an antique store or through secondhand. I want to be really clear, I don't support like the unethical harvesting of animals to then use them as decorations. Anyone who watches what I do, I think, would know that, but I just want to be clear. This possum skull in this video was gifted to me by my boyfriend Ben and was found in the woods by someone. So it's natural causes, and then it has to be cleaned up. So that's what this video is about. If you want a full tour of all of these skulls that I have, or all the bones I have, because I have a lot. I have like a goat and a gopher and a vole and a rabbit and 3 deer and an alligator, a leopard gecko, a crested gecko, a coyote, maybe soon to be a bear. You know, just a goofy, silly little girl hobby, okay? If you're interested in a bone haul, let me know. And without further ado, please enjoy me cleaning this bone. So here is our starting point. As you can see, there is a lot of dirt still. There is no flesh. Obviously, it is just bone at this point. So cleaning it means something different than it would if it had flesh. So a few years ago, when I found a rabbit skeleton underneath of a bush in my front yard, like it just happened by pure accident. I threw my dog's frisbee, it landed over the fence next to the bush, and then I saw the bones when I went to get the frisbee because it was like kind of in the bush. And so it was just covered in dirt, but again, there was no flesh. So I did some research about how to clean bones at that point. And the first thing that I chose to do was to use antibacterial hand soap and an old toothbrush to kind of just get a general cleaning of it, scrub off any big chunks of dirt. When I did my groundhog skull, there was a bunch of cobwebs and stuff in it, and it was like mostly dirt free, so that one was actually really easy. But for this possum skull and for the others that I've cleaned before that had dirt on them or have been sitting outside in nature for a long time, you really just want to remove as much as possible before you do the next step, because that'll make it even better when you do the next step. Some people skip this step entirely and just do the next step, but I think it's good to do both. I've obviously sped up the video to save time, but I'm not scrubbing hard. Let's just be really clear. I'm being very gentle because I don't want to dislodge anything or break any part of the delicate face or the jaw, because I want it to still be one piece. Obviously, I'm doing this to make it for display. So be very careful when you are cleaning a skull, especially if it's smaller. And the teeth have a tendency to fall out, so I recommend laying a rag in the sink. That way it can like still drain a bit, but you're not going to lose any teeth, because if they fall into the drain, you can't get them. But if they fall into this rag or washcloth or towel or whatever, then you can kind of see them, feel around for them like I just did there. Nope, no teeth, good to go. Now we can go on to the next step, which is the peroxide step. So some people use 12% peroxide and dilute it. That's not my preference. I just prefer to go with the very accessible 3% solution that is like available at CVS. In fact, I bought this at CVS on Christmas Day. I was surprised it was open, but I was like on the way home from my sister's house and it was open. I was like, okay, I guess I'll just run inside and grab some peroxide. So I feel bad for people working on Christmas Day. I'm not sure why exactly CVS has to be open, but I am grateful that it was, because I was able to then clean this skull on Christmas Day, which is a nice little present because I was really eager to get to it. So like I said, get yourself some 3% solution. You're going to want to surround the entire skull or bone that you're cleaning. So submerge it entirely and then make sure that everything fits into the one container that you're using. It will start bubbling or having a reaction immediately. As you can see here, how much bubbling is being given off. And the purpose of this, well, the reaction is obviously to clean and disinfect the skull, but also to whiten it. And then more importantly, the bubbles and the movement that happens will dislodge dirt that is on the inside of the skull or between the teeth or in places that you weren't able to get to with a toothbrush. I personally choose to leave the bones in peroxide for at least 24 hours. And I took some footage throughout the 24-hour process to show you just how much it continues to bubble, even if it's been a couple hours, if it's been 23 hours. A lot of times there'll still be activity happening. You can still see bubbles in the peroxide. You can still see dirt leaving the skull. So in this clip, you can see dirt on the top of the bubbles, and then in this clip, you can see dirt on the underside of the bubbles. Dirt will be released a ton. You can even see it floating around in the peroxide in some of the clips. So when you do this process, you're going to want to leave it undisturbed. So I just put it, to the side of my bathroom so that it's not going to be bothered, and I leave it there for the full 24 hours. You'll also notice as we jump from 11 hours later to 23 hours later that the skull is noticeably whiter. It will not be its whitest until you let it fully dry though, so don't be disheartened if it looks yellow to you and you're like, oh my god, I really wanted a beautiful white skull. Once it dries out completely, it whitens a lot. So after the full 24 hours, you can go ahead and dump out the peroxide. Be very careful doing this. You can choose to take out the skull first and then dump it, or you can just dump it with the skull inside. It's totally up to you. Again, make sure that you have a cloth or like a rag or something in your sink in case any teeth come out, because during the peroxide process, because the bubbles kind of push dirt out from the crevices, it can sometimes push teeth out. That did not happen with the opossum skull, luckily. Granted, many skulls that you find like sitting out in nature that decomposed naturally, or like animals that were predated on, might have some damage to the skull or the teeth. So this one already had some teeth missing, so did my rabbit skull. If you happen to find any missing teeth, like when you're looking at the skeleton or where it was, in nature, or if some teeth fall out in this process, you can glue them into place. So here is the cleaned top half of the skull. Obviously the mandible or lower jaw is what I'm going to work on next. Just basically rinsing it off to get any sort of like leftover dirt, detritus off, that sort of thing. What I really appreciate about cleaning this possum skull, and also I think when I cleaned my vole skull, is that the jaw stayed hinged together, whereas with the rabbit skull and the gopher skull, the bottom jaw came apart in two pieces, and it's really hard to set the top of the skull on top of the jaws in like a display form when they're separate. Here I'm showing you a little bit of damage to the skull and a little bit of areas where there probably was still some like hardened tissue or muscle or cartilage, I'm not entirely sure, that just never came off naturally with the decomposition. That is okay with me. It doesn't have to be perfect. That might gross some people out, but that's just kind of the nature of bones. If you made it this far, I'm sure you're not too grossed out. But this is what it looks like, entirely cleaned, much better than before. The little dark spots around the eyes is where you can see that there's still some tissue, or I don't know if I should say tissue necessarily, but still some organic matter. And here's a blurry photo of my possum skull's final resting place in my bedroom at Ben's house. I have like a skull display cabinet, and it's next to my vole skull. Thank you for watching me clean my bone. Is this inappropriate? This is inappropriate. Thank you for watching me clean my opossum skull. Just impressed that you stayed all the way through. If you did, comment bone tour, because I think if you stayed through the whole thing, you'd want to have a bone tour. So comment bone tour, and I'll post one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.